Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Friday. I am TJ. I am the CCO at EverRise. Today we have a very special joint Twitter Spaces with CertiK. Before we get to CertiK, I'll pass the mic over to Jason and Peter to quickly introduce themselves, and then the floor is yours.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jason Robinson. I am the CMO at EverRise.
Hey, everybody. My name is Peter Bryce. I'm an attorney and the manager of legal operations at EverRise.
Welcome, gentlemen. And CertiK, why don't you introduce yourselves?
Hello, everyone. I am Chase. I'm the social media marketing manager here at CertiK, and I'm joined by our BD, Michael.
Hello there. This is Michael. I'm a manager on the BD team. Have been here for a little more than a year now, and worked with Chase a lot, and excited to chat with these guys over from EverRise.
I love it. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today. Obviously, security is something that we both value. So let's kick right into it. We'll ask you questions. You'll ask us questions. We'll just kind of have a conversation because at the end of the day, security and safety is priority number one, period. CertiK is synonymous with safety and security. Everyone knows what you do, but tell us, when you got here, when did CertiK start? What's the history of CertiK? And, what are your long-term goals?
Yeah, so, I joined CertiK last May as a community manager and kind of slowly worked my way up to do more and more on the marketing side. CertiK was founded in 2017 by our two co-founders who are professors of cybersecurity at Yale and Columbia. So, we're very well known for our auditing. We've slowly built out more and more products to kind of create that whole closed security loop, as we like to call it, because as you guys are aware, an audit is not end-all be-all of security. There's much more beyond that the projects have to do to kind of stay on top of things. So yeah, our long-term goals, we have the mission statement on our website and everywhere else of securing the Web3 world, and that is a tall task.
Maybe you can kind of clarify for us a little bit, what actually is an audit? What is the process that CertiK goes through when a developer submits a smart contract to you guys?
I actually think Chase just got rugged, which is kind of ironic at the beginning of the space for CertiK. Let me get him back up here. I need to run over to the other phone. But Peter, carry on while I'm on the other side of the room.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. We had this conversation in our TA channel in Telegram about what an auditor does, what an auditor doesn't do, and and where the responsibility lies, and just what the whole process looks like. And Michael, if you can speak to that, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to cover this question. That's kind of funny. Chase did get rugged by his Wi-Fi there. But yeah, ultimately, there's 5 major steps to the auditing process. So we'll provide a quote. What does that look like? It's an estimated start date, estimated duration, so how long is the audit going to take, and then how much is it going to cost. Once we decide to move forward, we'll get you listed on our website. That way your community can kind of follow the auditing process, whether it's through the initial audit, remediation phases, and so on. So we allocate a few engineers to go line by line through the code. Ultimately, depending on the length and complexity of the code, the engineering teams will circle up afterwards, create what's called the preliminary report. So they'll discuss all the findings they had, rank the severity of each vulnerability that was found, as well as a way to remediate each issue that was found. So, ultimately at that time we sit down with the project team's devs, kind of hash out any questions that they may have. They make the remediations. We go through, perform another review of the code. That way, ensure that everything is up to par. From there, we publish the audit report and move forward. So that's kind of, in a perfect world, how the audit works. Sometimes it gets a little complex because people continue to develop. So it's kind of like an ongoing process. And to be honest, it's very rare that 2 audits are the same. I'm sure you could imagine, everyone has their, own unique code, and each code presents its own unique vulnerabilities as well. So it's kind of long-winded, but hopefully that answers your question.
No, that's super helpful. And you also mentioned afterwards things can change in the contract. What does CertiK do once they finish their audit, and then if a developer kind of continues to modify the contract, what does that look like from your end?
Yeah, amazing. Good question. We really, this is something we pride ourselves on. Whether, if we start with the V1 audit, we definitely want to work with the project teams through, versions 1.2, 1.5, and so on, no matter how far they continue to develop. But if it's only a minor update and, the majority of the original code stays the same, then we can just charge an addendum fee. As we have systems to verify that nothing from the original scope has changed, Once that test kind of passes, we're able to just, charge them for the updated work that's there for our engineering team. There's no need to kind of re-review stuff that's already been reviewed. Once they get to kind of like a major version update, we can kind of assess, what's changed, what's new, and as the relationship kind of grows and matures and we've worked with teams for an extended period of time, obviously it's easier to kind of understand the platform and, ultimately makes our lives easier and kind of assessing the code, which makes obviously the project team's life easier and paying for the audit. So hopefully that makes sense. And, people have the conception that, things are always going to be super expensive when it comes to security. But there's, it's actually a common misconception. Once you kind of get that initial review done, it's easy to kind of make remediations and updates and get, secured afterwards.
Love that. And let's not forget why we're here today. The communities on both sides were pretty wild. Chase, did the EverRise community catch your attention?
They always do. Yeah, I mean, you guys are quite active on socials, especially Twitter. I mean, that's my main domain for work. That's where I spend most of my time, and you can't really spend much time without coming across something EverRise related. You guys are very active on there. But question for you guys. So, I mean, it's been like a year, I think, since, I don't know if the community is aware, but we had EverRise on the security showcase. We do host that on Twitter and YouTube and stuff, and that was about a year ago. So I was just curious, like, kind of what you guys have been up to since then. Like, what have you been most excited about in that year?
Whew. Well, there's a lot.
I'm sure.
There's a lot. I think last time we saw you guys, we only existed on the BNB chain. We've since bridged over to 42 chains: Polygon, Avalanche, Phantom, and Ethereum. That may be right out the gate my favorite part because redundant systems are anti-fragile. Our liquidity is now exposed to 5 different protocols rather than just one. And I'm just super excited about the tech behind the bridge, which is instead of using a mint and burn function, which we see as an exploitable function frequently in the space, it uses a vault, lock, and unlock system. So that's the main innovation behind the bridge, which has me super excited. But we've also started rolling out just our services for the wider DeFi community, just kind of solutions for other protocols and projects. For instance, there's a migration D app that we offer for other projects that need to move to a new smart contract. We've used it ourselves to go from version 1 to version 2. We've introduced a staking lab, which is also, I mean, it blows my mind because once you stake your tokens, the staked tokens are then wrapped in an NFT token wrapper. And therefore, what then happens is that you've got an NFT which holds all of those tokens. And what you can then do as a result is, rather than trade within liquidity pools, people who hold Rise and stake Rise can actually trade their NFT on the open market, say on OpenSea or Tofu NFT or anything like that. So in my view, it kind of creates a system where the Rise token itself kind of has a derivative on top of itself, and creates kind of a more liquid financial market, which is pretty cool. And I'll name one more D app, and then I'll let the other guys chime in. We also have Everevo, which in my view, that should be something that's part of every DeFi user's daily hygiene, which is to make sure that there are no outstanding token approvals, smart contract approvals, that is, and just to make sure that whatever kind of any kind of token, any NFT project that people have been trading, we can go back and make sure that those smart contracts no longer have those approvals, which leave us susceptible to hacks. Like you see it all the time. Once there's a hack, like say on OpenSea, there was that one phishing account thing, then everyone's going crazy, like, revoke your approvals. Well, there's no need to do it when the house is on fire. Just put your smoke alarms in right out the gate.
Absolutely. Casting my mind back to that that showcase we did on your YouTube channel and to where we are now. Like, we just had, obviously big goals and big visions of actually making an impact into the DeFi space and providing these security solutions for the users and projects to kind of take a full advantage of. And now we are actually at the point where we've got projects and users taking full advantage of our suite of DApps that are designed to make that impact. And certainly, when it comes to things around smart contracts, I'm, in my opinion, our flagship DApp is Everevo. Everevo is certainly well poised to change the space and to change the way that communities and developers interact with one another. I saw you on mute there. Did you have do you want to answer the? Do you have anything to say? Sorry.
Chase? Me?
Yeah, Chase. I saw you. Sorry.
No, I was just going to comment on, because I remember back in the day when we had that conversation, like, you guys did have a lot of big goals, and the progress you've made in that year. I mean, I was kind of going through before just a refresh my mind on some stuff, and you guys got the Staking Lab, Everown, Everbridge, Everown, like you just kind of busting out all these products. I was curious. Another thing Everown is very cool. Do you think that is the most useful for users, or like which one of these new products that you guys have come up with do you think is most useful for users?
It depends if you're looking at it as a project, from a project point of view. I think the most useful, the app right off the gate is probably EverSwap, because it's easy to plug in and integrate into their projects, essentially utilizing the existing LP pools of DEXs on the native chain. From a user point of view, the most useful is probably Everevo, like Pete was just mentioning, about essentially making sure your smoke alarms are there, ready, making proactive measures to protect yourself in the space instead of making reactionary measures. Like, we all like to talk about security, but it's always from a reactionary standpoint, and we believe in being proactive and trying to encourage others to be proactive in this space also. But TJ, I saw you unmuted as well, if you want to elaborate on that.
Yeah, I unmuted before. I wanted to jump in because I was actually, it was myself and Drew from back in the day who did the initial CertiK YouTube stream. And I watched it back the other day. And Chase, man, I will tell you, EverRise back then compared to where EverRise is now, it is not even the same project. Back then, we pioneered the buyback. We brought the buyback to crypto. It's been forked thousands and thousands of times, which I'm sure you've seen. But from there, that AMA that we did, we had goals, we had ambitions, but nothing was completed yet, right? It was just a plan. But we knew what we wanted to do. And from there, we were able to build this team of incredibly talented developers, designers, legal, business, just all over the map. We went from a simple buyback token to a real company creating real solutions for the space that are needed. So I just wanted to jump in there because I watched it back and I was kind of laughing. I'm like, I cannot believe this is where we started to where we are now.
Yeah, I agree. I watched it back as well, and I was thinking about that as well. Like, it was just like two guys sitting on the couch talking about everything they want to do to where you are now. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I was super nervous too because that was when I was doxing. That was the first time I went public.
That's right.
So I was shaking the whole time. Kind of my first public speaking appearance, and with your first one being CertiK, that's not a small gig. So it was a lot. But I'm just incredibly impressed with the team at EverRise for building everything from the ground up. Nothing is outsourced. We're not hiring devs from the outside and stamping, putting our name on it. These are tools that we are building from the ground up because we see a need for it in the space. There will be no mass adoption without security and safety. I'm sure you can, right? EverRise and CertiK, we're both focused on security, and so are our communities. How do you guys spread that message to the wider Web3 world?
Yeah, kind of jumping back to that analogy of the smoke alarms, I really like that because one thing we always try to push is that security can't be an afterthought. Like, a lot of projects, unfortunately, realize that when it's a little bit too late. That's a big hack or something goes wrong, and then everyone's like, oh, shit, we should have got an audit. So we try to push that message as much as we can that, people have an idea that audits are some very expensive. Sure, they're not cheap, but, like, people think they're sometimes not even worth it. And as we always say, like, be ahead of it. The price of an audit up front is a lot better than paying the price for an exploit later. I can guarantee you that. So, we try to do that on our end just through talking with projects, kind of doing the educational stuff with the community. But, we always say as well, security isn't sexy. It's not something that a lot of people want to talk about. It's not something that really catches people's attention, unfortunately. It does when there's a big hack and it's all over the news or all over Twitter. That's when everyone wants to talk about it. But no one really wants to get in front of it like you guys are, and we try to with other projects. But, as far as getting that message out there, we do the best we can just through educational pieces, talking about it, but it's really a tall task.
Yeah. And feeding off of Chase, we traditionally everyone's thought of audits as like the end all be all, but the space has really evolved over the past 2-3 years with the emergence and kind of popularity of bug bounty programs, which kind of feeds into the preventative security. Now you have on-chain monitoring solutions like our Skynet product that are more reactive, where God forbid, there is some sort of hack or interaction with a vulnerable wallet, whatever the circumstance may be, but project teams can be notified, right away. So at CertiK, we're really, trying to take a step forward and lead the industry in, these sort of initiatives, whether it is the bug bounty or the on-chain monitoring or, KYC programs for teams that want to remain doxxed, but want to still, instill confidence in their community and show hey, we're here for the long run. I just, don't want to tell you my name and where I live and all that information. So we're able to verify them with background checks and, a rigorous due diligence process to ensure that, they are real people, number one, and they're going to do what, they promise they say they will.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Not, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, you're good. I was just talking, ultimately, it's, security is more than audits at this point in time. And I know you guys have Skynet activated, and you guys understand, there's more solutions on the rise, and, we should adopt them.
Talking about more solutions, I mean, DeFi and centralization within DeFi and the governance process that surrounds that. We've all seen projects that, that are misappropriately handling LP and, changing functions within their smart contract without being open and upfront with their communities about it. This is plaguing the space, and it creates a division between communities and projects and makes people quite rightly cynical and skeptical when it comes to new projects that are looking to innovate in the space. And the centralization risk is one of the biggest major findings in all of the smart contract audits. I see it all the time on the CertiK, CertiK website. I'm looking through the audits and centralization this, centralization that. What do you do in particular when you discover that there might be a solution to some of these risks? Maybe like with the app Everevo, where you can lock a smart contract onto the blockchain itself behind community-held votes. How do you treat these types of solutions when it comes to those types of dApps, for example, and how it may mitigate the centralization risk?
Good question. So I definitely want to start off that I'm not a technical engineer on the auditing team, so I'm not the person to get kind of into the weeds with this, but there's a variety of solutions. For every centralization, I don't want to say every, but for most centralization issues, we provide three solutions. One is to kind of mitigate the finding. There's a low, medium, and a permanent fix for the issue. They're each case specific. One thing we do recommend is the KYC feature, so that, once again, it kind of shows to the community that, hey, look, there are centralization risks, but we have the information of the founders. They've gone through background checks, and they're, verified, credible, legit people. So I think this kind of circles back to, one of the core attributes of, successful projects is strong communities. If you believe in the project and believe in the people that are, leading the initiative that you're investing in or taking a loan from, whatever the circumstance may be, that's half the battle. I mean, there definitely are bad figures within the space. That's no secret at all. But ensuring that you're supporting a community and a team and a project that has integrity and is going to do what they promise to do is ultimately the best solution. Obviously, if they make all the remediations as well and there are no more issues in the audit report, then that's a great sign too.
It's interesting you say, because I would say that some of the biggest nefarious dealings that I've witnessed in the space have come from projects that have got communities that have full trust and a loyalty to their developers and to their leaders within the project. So it's a really tough one, right? Because when someone's invested and has spent so much time in a part of a community that's growing, having that transparency between the project leads and the actual community is so vital. But also, is it that apparent to the average community member as what may be going on? Because obviously we've seen when community members do highlight concerns and risks, that's normally just dispelled as FUD, right? And they're normally kicked out from the community as an outcast. So it's a real problem I see plaguing DeFi right now is that there's just not enough accountability on the shoulders of developers. And any project that's looking to build for the long term should have no problem answering these questions and being forefront and open and honest about their movements of LP and contracts. I see you unmuted, Chase.
Yeah, I was just going to say that it's an interesting point you bring up, how sometimes it's the strongest communities that do fall into this kind of situation. But I just want to reiterate to users that it is important to ask the important questions, ask the tough questions, and it should be a red flag for any user if the project bans you or kicks you from a chat or doesn't want to answer. I mean, it's important, you got to stay ahead of that and ask those questions. And if they don't want to answer them, then take that as a red flag and maybe rethink the whole situation.
if I just could ask you, what's your individually, what's your thoughts of solutions like Everone? Are you aware of how Everone works, and what's your thoughts on that type of DAO kind of governance in terms of locking it up and behind a community vote?
I have an idea of it, but if you give me a little elevator pitch, or maybe for anyone else on our end who's listening who's not
Sure.
that aware.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to. So essentially, a developer at any stage can decide that he or she would want to lock their smart contract. So all the functions and generated liquidity that may exist, or even now liquidity in general, can be locked behind a contract address on the blockchain, which is controlled by Everone, a decentralized DApp. During this time, the developer has no access to the contract to make any changes or to move any liquidity. And if they wish to do so, say like an exchange pops up, they want to list on an exchange, or they want to bridge to a new blockchain, there are legitimate reasons for developers to have access to these functions and liquidity pools. What it does is actually encourages them to be up, bring up with their community a case to why they need to have this access. And what they do is they ask the community to vote yes or no. Can we have access back to the smart contract to make the necessary changes in order to what we want to do? And this to me is something which I'm really passionate about in terms of bringing awareness to these types of solutions. Renouncing a contract is one thing, but once you do that, you literally are dead in the water and able to adapt and be flexible to essentially grow as a project. You're pretty much stuck. So Everone, once users conduct a vote, if more than 50% of the total users, and the users conduct a weighted vote, so based on their holdings, so a snapshot is done at the time of the votes initiated, based on the holdings of the users, they get a more powered weighted vote. And over 50% is voted in one way or the other, yes or no, a decision is made. And a minimum time period of 24 hours must surpass. So this is something that I really want to kind of get out there to the wider community, to realize, like, I've joined spaces where people have been unhappy with the way that decisions have been made within a project. So this may not just be a case of all of a sudden developers start accessing the LP and start taking it out and moving it to other places without any idea where it's going. This could be something that I've seen recently, actually, where a project is released and in their white paper they've had all of their specifics, and after release they've turned around and said, we're introducing a anti-whale tax. We're going to tax people, or we're going to prevent bag holders of a certain amount from actually selling their entire bag, and we're actually going to tax a portion on that. So this, to me, is certainly not in the spirit of DeFi. And I really am interested to hear what your initial thoughts, not necessarily the thoughts of CertiK, but your initial thoughts as a member of this space, of what everyone could potentially do to make it better.
Yeah, I think that's a great solution. It really, for every project, maybe not, but for projects that have the trust, transparency, and are talking about and doing things with security, such as you guys, I think it's a great solution. I would say, like, as a CertiK shill, I would say, coupled with our KYC, for example, which gives more skin in the game, that'd be like an all-around perfect solution, because the devs are still held accountable on that end, but it is the community's choice. So I think, especially for community-driven such as EverRise, you guys' community is insane. I think, in a good way, I think that is a great idea, and kind of a good way to go about solutions and how to make decisions.
Yeah, I think, feeding off Chase, it's an interesting question that you guys are answering, where, like, we come from, just the civilization that was centralized before. To put faith in, like, a group of people from around the world that a lot of them you probably haven't met beyond the internet, and allow, kind of like that community voting style. I think, it is the future regardless of what people say. Having, that kind of DAO approach and community approval in order to make major decisions. So I think the adoption of it is obviously the more difficult end of the equation. And I think you guys have an amazing approach to that question. Like I said, it's a great answer.
Thank you.
Thanks for the background as well, and kind of breaking it down into, like, that third grade knowledge for us, Jason.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you, Chase. It's just, again, just raising awareness of solutions that are out there, especially to the wider DeFi community. Renounced contracts that are out there. There are communities out there that are part of projects that have renounced their contract, And that's not the end, right? They could migrate and they can innovate if they want to. But a lot of projects out there, they're happy to stay announced. We spoke to one recently, and they're announced and they're very much happy to be decentralized in that way. But certainly when it comes to having that balance between having the ability to make changes to the contract, to make changes to the LP if necessary, but also having to have a level of trust and transparency there between them and the community. I love the idea of the two coming together. And that's the balance, right? Because we are in DeFi. It's not decentralized, in my opinion, but we can improve it, and we can put solutions in place that act more in the spirit of what DeFi is, without derailing innovation and opportunity.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I mean, on our end, like as a security company, we can always kind of recommend solutions for projects, but as you said, it's not for everybody. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. Like different projects can have different approaches, and I think at the end of the day, it's really up to the individual projects and communities to decide what's best for them.
100%. Absolutely. Thank you for answering.
Yep, for sure. And then let's hop over to, we want to hop over to a different topic. I can bring up another question
sure.
that let's see. So jumping on the community, as CJ asked about. So, I mean, everyone knows that the EverRise community is very strong and very excited about the project. I mean, the different GIFs and memes and stuff I see all over Twitter. It's like, what do you guys credit that to on your end? And like, what do you think has really helped drive that?
I think it comes down to, and Peter, I'll let you jump in after me because I saw you unmuted pretty quickly, but I think it comes down to the fact that, like you said, security is not sexy, right? No one likes to talk about it, but it is hands down the most important, thing. So I think what the EverRise community has really taken upon themselves to do is try and make security sexy with these memes, with the way that they talk about the project. So, I think, let's say 900 out of, I'm going to say 99 out of 100 times, you will not see a tweet about EverRise of someone going around saying, buy EverRise next to 100x gem. We don't do that. We don't even talk really much about the token. It powers our ecosystem, but we talk about our applications, and the community focuses on the applications because it's these applications that are going to drive adoption, which will in turn lead to more people talking about security and hopefully making it sexy. And I'm sorry I keep going back to that, but I don't know if it was Michael that said that or Chase, but it really struck a chord with me. And I think, the community is just really taking it upon themselves to preach the importance of it. There's only so much that we can do as a team, right? We focus on building, we focus on educating. But outside of that, I mean, we're not the biggest team. I think we have 14 people on staff. And that's on top of our moderators who do an incredible job. Shout out to the moderators on all channels. Everyone putting in work all over the place. We appreciate you. But it's just not something that we can do on our own. But it kind of relates back to the fact that the community is as passionate about security and safety in this space as we are. And that's why you see tweets about EverRise all the time, because we want to get the word out, right? The community wants everybody to know about Everevo. I go on Twitter and on the EverRise account and I refresh the notifications tab and I go to the mention section and it's just all educational content. It's not next gem, you're going to be rich if you buy this token. No, it's this app does this, it will protect you in this way. This app does this, it will keep your funds safe, and this is why. And I think, the community feeds off each other. And I think it's just so great. So that's kind of why I think our community is so great. And if anyone from the community does want to pop up towards the end, we will do a question and answer period as always. But I mean, that's my take on it. And I think I'm spacing on the second part of your question because I was so focused on that. My apologies.
No, I think that covered it. I mean, it's definitely a breath of fresh air. I mean, there is a lot of cool stuff going on in this space, and everyone just kind of gets focused in on the price and being rich and stuff. So it definitely is a breath of fresh air to kind of see users care more about what you're building, what you're doing, instead of just the price of the token. I mean, all that matters, of course, but like to have that be your main driver is very important, I think.
Without a doubt. And Peter, I'm actually going to pass it off to you because I know you have some passionate analysis about this.
Well, I mean, you guys
dispassionate analysis.
Well,
Excuse me.
I get passionate about dispassionate analysis, and I think that's kind of one of the EverRise community norms. Is like, look, when we look at what we're doing and what the token is meant to do and what EverRise is meant to do, we try to look at it, with an even keel, and to try to say like, how do markets work? How does math work? and how does EverRise make the world a better place? And it sounds a little bit, idealistic, but if we're not kind of putting that at the forefront of our mission, then it really is this kind of greed-filled quest to get rich quick and sell on the rest of the community. And that's when you get communities that are on Telegram internally squabbling and fighting and, paper hands get wrecked and chanting about, all this vague stuff about how everybody's kind of at each other's throats. We don't have any of that in our internal channels. Our Discord and our Telegram are mostly like questions and suggestions and just passing things around, kicking around a few ideas. And so there's still a lot of energy that the community has that needs an outlet. And so I think that they go to places like Twitter so we can simply spread the word. And we don't spend all of our time like yelling at each other and complaining and just kind of being upset that we're not all rich yet. So when you have a community that is in it for the long haul and that is well educated and that also tries to think of ways to improve the space, then I think you do get a community that has, I think the good reputation that everybody in this room has. Because I see, look at the spaces down there. Look at all these arrows. Look at all those beautiful orange arrows. Bravo, community. You guys are sensational, and you're doing just a wonderful job just spreading not only education, but also good cheer, which matters. Like, I don't want to be one of those communities that's always just like yelling at each other. It's completely unpleasant. And so, TJ, a lot of credit goes to you. It starts with you. You're the founder, and you're also the chief communications officer. So thank you for setting that tone. Thank you for being out there on Twitter Spaces every single day to talk to people and just make sure that the community stays thinking about ways to improve the entire space and not just their own bag.
Transparency is paramount in this space. Well said, Peter. Very well said.
I gotta ask.
Yeah.
I know you guys have Skynet, and first, could you tell us a little bit more about what that does and what the service is that CertiK provides? And also, can you tell us what went into the decision to name it after the computer in Terminator that ruins everybody's day?
So I will let Michael, I think you can probably better answer this, but I will just jump in and say, as far as my knowledge, it was not named after the Terminator. No connection. But we do have people who reply, there's this Terminator account on Twitter. And anytime I tweet about Skynet, he'll reply and say it must be destroyed or something. I just find that very funny. So I wanted to throw that in there. But I'll let Michael handle the what is Skynet question.
Yeah, good. Thanks for tagging me in here. And if I had $1 for every time someone made a Terminator reference when we talked about Skynet, I would be long retired. But what Skynet is, it's our 24/7 on-chain monitoring and security product. So what does that mean? After smart contracts have been audited and deployed, let me back up there. Think of an audit as a snapshot in time, like a traditional photograph. Then the contracts are deployed after the reviews have been made. At that time, we, suggest that our clients activate Skynet. So think of Skynet as a security camera in the corner of the room, 24/7, always on, staring at that smart contract, waiting and monitoring and tracking all of the interactions that it has. So for example, if it interacts with a risky wallet, project teams can be notified like, hey, wallet XYZ was just, interacting with this smart contract. They've also, been flagged for these past incidents, XYZ, like whatever the circumstance may be. Additionally, if they interact with a risky unaudited smart contract or a risky oracle, those are another common finding that Skynet picks up. So it's great. And then if you check out our leaderboard on CertiK.com, you can, also, get a better understanding of the type of data that Skynet aggregates. So for example, one of the big factors that we look at is social sentiment. So what are people saying about projects on Twitter? Another thing would be obviously liquidity monitoring and, the price analysis. So there's a number of different factors. And then probably the last one that I would say that it's a major factor in calculating the security score, which is, also included in Skynet, is the market volatility. So there's a number of different factors that are incorporated here to kind of give communities an understanding of how secure a project is at any given time. So Skynet's, like I said, always updating, based off a number of, different factors that affect projects, and they can all be tracked through that security score on our website. So, it's kind of like a two-faced product where it helps, project teams feel more secure about their projects and get a better understanding of what their smart contracts are doing and the interactions they're having at any given point in time. But once again, when you go on our website, check out that leaderboard, communities can also get that understanding and, kind of get a better reading on, the systems that they're investing in and, supporting on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, I'm more on the community side of things with what I do in CertiK. So that's my main pitch usually, is how beneficial it is for users. I mean, I don't know if anyone listening has really checked it out, but if you go to EverRise's page, for example, you can see the amount of token transfers in 24 hours, the amount of new wallets in 24 hours. there's so much data that it shows for users just to go and get a good idea of a project's general health. Like as Michael said, the social sentiment is a huge thing. There's so much on there that it shows. And then it also gives the trust score. And that's kind of an interesting thing. We've been improving that over time. It's changed a lot since we first established it. But what the trust score is, it's a weighted index of signals we've developed. I mean, there's dozens of them. That includes everything from like software quality, centralization risk, to community sentiment and market strength. And it's kind of just a weighted index of our security signals. And then there's a market and community score, which is a weighted index of non-security signals, which include the social sentiment and that kind of stuff. So it really, there's so much about it to talk about. Like it would take a very long time, but I would just encourage users to kind of go check it out. Like check out any page on CertiK.com that has it, and you can kind of get an idea that way.
Yeah, also stay tuned. That's all I have to say. There may be new updates coming out soon. So
no alpha yet, but stay tuned.
Use the eye emojis. But we don't have them on Twitter, unfortunately.
Chase, Michael, so there's a lot of auditing companies, right? CertiK is, I think, known to be the biggest. What makes CertiK stand out? You know, what does CertiK offer that other auditing companies don't outside of Skynet?
Good question. So I think we can just start with our founding team. We were founded by two professors, one from Yale, one from Columbia. Together they developed formal verification, which is one of the highest standards of Web3 security today. So whenever we work with a major L1 or the largest projects within the industry today and protocols, a lot of their stuff is formally verified. Ultimately, there is a goal one day within this industry to have everything secured to that level of standard, but it's still very early on. Additionally, as we touched upon before, we are an end-to-end, security shop. So we have the audit, we have Skynet, which is, kind of the reactive side of security as well. And then we have the due diligence and KYC teams, as well as our bug bounty program as well. It's hard to find, an auditor that has, that suite of offerings, can audit any chain within the Web3 community, no matter the language. And then finally, quality auditors as well. Like I said, we have a strong academic foundation. We take pride in developing our talent and, our auditing capabilities, and, fortunate to have a very, very talented team that work with us on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, I was on a space yesterday, and they were asking about, like how many people we have on the team, like what sets us apart. And I was telling him we have about a little over 300 now in the company. So that really gives us the ability to do these audits, like not just fast, but we can bring on a lot more people than most auditing firms, which may have like a 4-month wait time, that kind of stuff. So that's one thing that sets us apart. And then I was telling him how every time we get a new hire, the whole company gets an email with like their background, their education, where they previously worked and stuff. And I'm just always amazed at whether it be their educational background or their previous work history. Like we truly do hire the best of the best in the space. And that's one thing that I think really sets us apart.
I love that. One thing I'm wondering, because, I think a lot of us spend the majority of our day or a big portion of it on Twitter. This time last year, I couldn't refresh my Twitter feed without seeing an influencer, and that's in, air quotes, talking about the next 100x gem, CertiK audited, doxed founders, aping, right? That used to be like on my feed 24/7, and it was so disgusting, to be honest. Are you finding that due to the bear market that the need or the demand for smart contract audits has gone down a little bit? Like, are there less projects being, I guess, created and asking for an audit right now?
Yeah, I can handle this one, Chase. It's a good question. It is definitely a different type of clientele. Like I said, you have, the larger exchanges, projects with roadmaps, and not just the average, meme coin, for a lack of expression, coming up trying to ride the bull market. It's, nice to work with projects that have 2, 3, 4, 5 year-long roadmaps, have plans to, be here in the long run and, provide, a very unique utility or, service to the Web3 community. So it's really, an interesting shift. If you look at, previous bull runs, there were, NFT pumps and DeFi pumps. And I think it's interesting to see kind of like the next wave of Web3 and how it will ultimately affect the communities and kind of industry today. So I guess it's, to answer your question, it's just a different flow and different kind of pace of business.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. And I mean, as you always hear, bear markets are building. Like everyone always says that because it's the only way we can calm ourselves down from the prices. But I think it's true, and I do agree with Michael's answer. But to jump back to your part, TJ, is unfortunately I haven't seen the slowdown in the DMs of people asking to show your project for $100. So I'm sure you see that as well. But that
incredible
has not
offer.
slowed
You
down,
should accept.
everything else.
Yeah, that's never going to go away. And as the space grows, there's tons of scammers. We all know that. It's part of the space. Bad actors, they all deserve to be punished, but they're never going to go away. If something is doing well and someone's making money somewhere, there will be a ton of scammers out there trying to take it from you. And I think, it's important to talk about what to look out for, what not to look out for. I know Jason is and myself and Peter, we're all very passionate about signature approvals and revoking signature approvals. And what we did recently is we launched a tool that Peter spoke about briefly called Everevo, which is a free-to-use tool. We're not making any money on it. The only cost to the user is the gas fee, but they can connect their wallet on BNB Chain, Ethereum, Phantom, Avalanche, or Polygon, view all of their token and NFT approvals, and revoke them. And the reason that we went ahead and created this tool, while there are other similar tools out there, as far as I know, we're the only ones that have a revoking platform from not only a public team, but a registered company. Anytime that I've gone to panic revoke in the past because, let's say, there's an exploit on OpenSea and people are getting NFTs stolen, and I'm running around trying to find ways to revoke my wallet, nothing with the websites wouldn't stay up, they would crash, and we just kind of wanted to make a better way. So I'm hoping to see, as we move forward, more talk around token approvals, because you don't see it often. And a lot of the time, it ends up draining people's wallet because they have an old contract still connected that gets exploited, 6 months down the line. If you're connected to, let's say, an NFT marketplace and there's an exploit and people are getting their NFTs either stolen or sold at a ridiculously low price, there's a big need for it there. So personally, I just kind of hope to see the narrative around security start to include token approvals, because not enough people are talking about it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's a great tool, or what do you guys want to call it, that you guys have developed. Because, I mean, especially for NFTs, I mean, it was kind of looked at as one of the ways for more mass adoption in crypto. And, I mean, NFTs still have their problems that are going to prevent, even NFTs from getting mass adoption, and that's one of them. I think creating tools like that will really help the space a lot in the long haul.
I love that. I couldn't agree more. We have 10 minutes left in this space, guys, so I will open the floor to audience questions. If you do have a question for either us or CertiK, please raise your hand now. While we wait, Jason, Peter, anything to add?
Yeah, why don't you, can you just tell us which blockchains you support audits on, and maybe which programming languages?
All of them. We do audits for any language, any ecosystem. I mean, with the number of engineers and talent we have, we can cover any language. But yeah, it's a short answer, everything.
We could just off the top of my head, Solidity, C++, Cairo, Consensus Protocols, Phantom Formal Verification, Golang, Cosmos SDK, Python and Teal, PyTeal, Rust, Cosmos, Octopus, Near, Rust, Solana, Substrate, so like the Polkadot stuff, Plutus for Cardano. We can do penetration testing. I'm kind of running out of stuff, but I don't know if I said Go or Golang.
Just a couple then. Just a couple.
So when we say everything, we really mean everything.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I've practiced that.
I actually had one more question for you guys as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I saw that you guys are, as you mentioned, for even the Everevo, how many different chains you're on. Kind of what went into deciding which ones to do stuff with, and then on the NFT side, I was curious if you guys have any plans for Solana or anything like that, because I know that's kind of an up and coming, if you want to call it that, NFT platform. I was just curious if you guys are looking into that, and what went into your decisions to be on all these different chains.
So we certainly wonder what the world would look like if we existed on every credible blockchain, and that's definitely part of our thinking. For the time being, it was easiest to only branch out to EVM-compatible blockchains, and that's why we're on the 5 that we're on. We launched on BNB along with a lot of other smart contract protocols, and then Ethereum was just a natural first choice. And then Polygon was our third one, and same kind of thing. It's super exciting, the scaling solutions that they're building, and we also see that they've got a sensational business development team over there, so I think that was another good call. Then Phantom and Avalanche came along, and these are blockchains which are really interesting because Phantom in particular is very community-driven. They kind of remind me of EverRise in the sense that their culture on various Phantom projects is very much about how can we add value? How can we come up with structures and systems that make a lot of sense? And then we'll worry about adoption like as we go and just focus on the tech first. I spent a lot of time on Phantom Discords. There's a couple of good projects like Beethoven X and Hector that I try to stay on top of. And it's interesting to listen to the discourse in the Phantom projects versus the typical discourse in BNB projects, which it's just very different and focused on a lot of different things. And then AVAX, they've got a lot of interesting technology with subnets coming out. They have a very strong corporate foundation as well. So it seemed like a natural thing. When we branch out to new blockchains, we want to make sure that they're going to exist in 5, 10, 20, 100 years, right? So it was important to us to pick blockchains that had sustainable plans for growth and also a credible path forward to the future. So I love each and every one of our blockchains, and I'm glad that we're on them. And there will be more coming over time. But it's a heavier lift when they're not EVM compatible.
That makes sense. And then I'm ready for the EverRise army when you guys are. I've been mentally preparing for it.
All right. Enrique, take it away, man.
Hey guys, how are you? I know that the account of security leaderboard knows me because I'm that Mr. Bean with the head of EverRise logo saying hi all the time. So hello. Guys, our community is passionate because we have been since most of us has been for over a year together. We have seen the project grow. We believe in the project, what it's bringing to the space, and we are pushy. We push for what we believe. So we had the Let Us In movement and things that actually the community felt and went through after that. In this case, we're firm believers that Everevo is going to do some good things for the space and for people because we have seen cases that they have helped people already protecting their assets. So would you guys be able to or consider to recommend, and probably something that you can talk to the team and recommend the Everevo itself? That is one question. And the second one is, have you analyzed the way our bridges work and the locking and the ball that is in the middle of the bridges?
Could you repeat that second part of the question? I didn't catch that.
Yeah, buddy. If you have checked the way that the bridge works, or EverBridge, and the system that it has in the middle of the bolt itself.
So about the Everevo, I actually thought about that during our conversation when I don't know if it was Peter or whoever was talking about Everevo. I was like, oh, that might be something we can recommend. So it's definitely something I can pass to the team and see what our thoughts are on that. Can't make any promises, of course. I don't have the power to do that, but yeah, it's definitely something we can bring up with the team.
If you haven't looked at the way the bridge works, it's kind of cool. Thanks, Enrique, for that question. It's one of my favorite subjects. The way the bridge works is that we've deployed 5 different smart contracts on each chain on which we exist, and each one has an identical supply, and that supply is equal to our max supply. So although you've technically got 5 contracts that exist on each chain, most of those tokens are at any given moment locked in what we call the bridge locker. And the only way tokens can get out of that bridge locker is if they're called by the bridge contract itself. So if I exist on Polygon, and I want to go to BSC, all that I will do is send my Polygon tokens to the bridge vault, essentially. And that is the only way to unlock the Polygon tokens. So at any given moment, you don't know where the tokens are going to be, but the supply will always be 71 billion, and the bit will kind of stay in inactive status. So I don't know if you guys have had a chance to look at that, but I think it's super impressive what Suresh built. And it is going to be a multi-chain future, so it's important that we have good bridges.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I'm always cautious to talk about bridges, especially on the CertiK security side, because that is a very hot topic and something that, is responsible for, I don't know if it's more than 50% of the exploits this year, but very high number, so I'm always just teeter around that topic. But yeah, I'll have to check out more about it. It definitely sounds interesting.
Yeah, no, I can appreciate it because there are a lot of people that are anti-bridge altogether. They say there's no point in imagining a multi-chain or cross-chain future. Ethereum is the only coin that deserves to exist, and any other all the other tokens and coins are going to go to zero. And then particularly with these being susceptible to exploits, it is a dicey subject. But that's one of the reasons we're proud to be out there still building one. We think it's going to be a necessary component of a successful blockchain integration future. And, we're going to make sure that we do our best to keep ours safe.
For sure. Yeah, that's definitely been something the team has been we put out a few blogs and stuff on like what we've seen in the recent bridge attacks and like what can be done better going forward. So definitely recommend people check those out if you're curious about like exploits and bridges. And I mean, I trust you guys when you say you have security focused bridges, and I don't doubt that.
Yeah, I mean, it's very important. One thing we would never say is that we're completely secure, because when you say that, you're saying that there's no room to improve. And one thing that CertiK and Skynet do a great job of is keeping your eyes on the ball and saying, like, look, everybody can stand to improve. There's no such thing as a perfect smart contract. There's no such thing as a totally secure system, because security is limited by the innovation of those bad actors out there who unfortunately can be extremely smart and can find very nefarious ways around secure systems. So it's important for us to stay vigilant, and kudos to you guys at CertiK for leading the way in that charge. And we are proud to do our part over here at EverRise as well. TJ, do we have any more requests? We're at the hour, and it's been great to chat with our friends at CertiK. If there's nobody else to come through, maybe we can let these folks enjoy their Friday.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't see any other hands raised at the moment, so I think we can definitely wrap it up. I'm definitely respectful of both Michael and Chase's time. I want to thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today. I would love to do these more often. I think security, as we all know, is not talked about enough, and we need to talk about it more. Let's make security sexy together. Thank you again, gentlemen. Thank you to everyone who joined us to listen today. I'll pass it off to anyone on the panel to see if there are any closing statements.
Let's make security sexy again.
Yes. You know what? I wouldn't even say again. I would just say let's make it sexy, because I don't think that was.
So make security sexy.
Make security sexy. I love it.
That's what I say. Well, great. This has been a great space. I've been loving hearing more about CertiK, and I'm sure the RISE community have felt the same way. And just thank you so much for being here and listening to the questions and finding out more about EverRise.
Amazing.
Yeah, guys. Thank you
Likewise.
for all you do. Yeah, thank you so much for being a leader in the space. And keep grinding.
Likewise. Yeah, everyone enjoy their weekend, and hopefully we can get something on the books again soon and catch up again.
Absolutely. I mean, CertiK has always been like the household name in DeFi as the audit provider, and we want to get EverRise to be like the known name out in DeFi to be the provider of security solutions for smart contracts and for projects looking to build.
For sure.
Let's do it.
This has been awesome, and we will definitely stay in contact. It was a good time to do this, kind of the year after we originally met up. So, I mean, we won't have to wait that long for next time. We should definitely do it again. So we'll stay in contact. But yeah, this was definitely fun, and I enjoyed it.
I love it. Thanks again, guys. I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend, and keep tweeting. We'll talk soon.
See you guys.
Bye, everyone.